Tulalip 1986 A Year in Review. 1986 was a pivotal year for Tulalip in regard to fish. A salmon management plan received federal approval in January after 2 years of intensive negotiation between Washington State Department of Fisheries and the tribes. The agreement was based on salmon escapement goals, hatchery production levels, harvest locations, and language written into the plan for mediation rather than litigation. This federal approval solidified the cooperative fisheries management between the tribes and the state. Also in January, the salmon roadblock on a small branch of Colcita Creek that created a barrier to several miles of salmon spawning was solved with the new fish ladder. The ladder constructed allowed the fish to reach the 4 feet above the creek bed to continue their spawning upriver. This was one of 50 stream restoration projects. In July, a Japanese fisheries official visited Tulalip and was surprised with the tribe's fisheries enhancement efforts. The number and variety of species raised and released at the Tulalip hatchery was impressive. So far, the Tulalip tribes had raised and released about 5 million chum, 1.5 million chinook, 840,000 coho, and 84,000 steelhead. In March, the Tulalip tribes took to discussions on how to curtail the illegal gill netting activity in Port Gardner and Port Susan Bays. So far, this year, 6,000 feet of illegal nets have been seized. Francie Sheldon, Tulalip's Deputy Director of Fisheries, stated that Tulalip is aware of the problem and will start working hand in hand to help patrol the areas. In January, Tulalip leaders were honored for protecting Indian rights. A dinner was held to pay respects to Terry Williams, Bernie Gobin, Stan Jones Sr., Mason Morissette, and Don Simpson. One of the recent involvements of these leaders was the recovering of its rights to fish in historical, usual, and accustomed fishing grounds. In January, Marysville combined forces with Tulalip on a joint resolution of cooperation in a regional water study. At the current time, water needs of northwest Snohomish County were met primarily by the Stillaguamish River and several aquifers. Indication of these sources are barely adequate to meet current water needs. Clarence Hatch, the executive director of the Tulalip tribes, announced the boundaries of the regional study. Steamboat Slough, north to the Skagit County line, and from the Sound east to Highway 9. In June, the salmon season kicked off with the annual salmon ceremony. The ceremony marked the arrival of the first king salmon of the season. The heart of the event is the arrival of the canoe on the Tulalip shores with the king salmon on a bed of cedar boughs. The salmon is then carried into the longhouse and is greeted with songs, drums, and dances. Hundreds of participants and guests are treated to a salmon feast. In April, the Red Moon Dancers performed at the Marysville Public Library. Johnny Moses and his troupe performed native dances of the Coast Salish people. Handmade regalia, drums, and voice helped bring the authenticity to the program and transport those in the audience to a time when the land was exclusively the home of Northwest coastal Indians. Born in 1986, Martina Hudson gave birth to triplets in April, Tanika, Regina, and Samantha. Here are the other 1986 births. Elected to the board in 1986 were Stan Jones Sr. and Roy Hatch. Stan Jones Sr. serving as chair, Raymond Freiberg, vice chair, Stan Jones Jr., treasurer, Deborah Posey, secretary, along with Herman Williams Jr., Don Hatch, and Roy Hatch. In August, Super Good Sense homes on Tulalip were dedicated in their new subdivision. The 34 manufactured homes were fabricated in Oregon and transported to the Tulalip Reservation. The energy-saving features of the home included insulated glass, dehumidifiers, R39 ceilings, R19 walls, and R30 floors. Projections of the home savings should save about 58% in heat compared to identical homes built to the 1980 code. The subdivision was a joint effort of the Tulalip Tribe's Housing Authority, U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, BPA, and PUD. In July, Boom City Fireworks was a big boom. 76 vendors bought permits to sell fireworks. Boom City began in 1978 with only 16 booths. The push to make it a wholesome family atmosphere was still the main priority. About 20,000 people are expected to pass through the area, with the busiest times July 1st through the 4th. And finally, in October, tribal members Debbie Posey and Lynn Cortez's new fast food restaurant Arby's opened on the reservation. The two owners worked with the tribe to open up their business locally. The restaurant was in business until 2017, when it closed its doors and was demolished, and the new Quilceda Creek Casino was built where the restaurant stood. And that was Tulalip, 1986, A Year in Review.